Hello, everybody. My name is Nicholas Mars, and today I'm going to be talking about creative energy. Now, again, I'm not a scholar. I don't have any qualifications to be talking about whatever I'm talking about, but just from the experience of being an artist, being a creative, while also being very conscious of oneself, I think I have something to offer. So, creative energy is very interesting because we often deify the concept of inspiration in general in multiple aspects of life, like having inspiration in regards to like working out or like inspiration in regards to like continuing in life when something very tragic has happened to you. And by that same virtue, we have art, inspiration from art. I believe that art is a derivative from whatever the artist's reference points were, their frame of reference, how they grew up, the things that they consumed, the way that they learned how to create in their medium. But at the same time, when you are consuming something that is just so otherworldly or new to you, you begin to question what was the inspiration for this. And again, we can point to reference points, we can point to life events, we can point to moments like just how the creative process works for a specific artist. But at the end of the day, I don't think inspiration is something that we should be deifying, but rather discipline. There's a great video that talks about creative energy and what it is. I'll leave that in the description. I watched it before a long time ago during my creative writing class. It was using the concept or the practice of writing more so as a framework, but it can be applied to any art form at all. I do believe that there are moments when I'm creating, when I'm making music, or when I'm writing something, that there's just something that like dawns on me whenever I'm recording a demo on my guitar and I'm trying to figure out a melody or chord progression and it just clicks. Or sometimes I'll just wake up in the morning and I just first thing I start writing. After I pray, thank God for the day, I just start writing and I don't know what's going on, and then I look back on it days later and it's just some of the most beautiful stuff I've ever written. And sometimes I'll be compelled to create a song out of nothing. And I would much rather like to conceptualize these things as learn behaviors through creative discipline rather than inspiration that just comes from nowhere. Because when we start chasing inspiration, I believe that's when we as artists become lethargic. You know what I'm saying? Like, we can only create when we're led to, and obviously being led to do something does not necessarily mean that you're going to do it in the first place, or that you're going to want, or that you are going to be led to do something at any given moment. You have to have the discipline and the self-actualization to create something, to want to get better, even if it's going to suck. I like to think that my proficiency in the art forms that I choose is because I've practiced and I've disciplined myself. And at some point, the pieces are just going to come together. At some point, everything's just going to make sense because you've been practicing, and you've been practicing, and you've been practicing, whether you realize it or whether you don't. That is discipline right there. And when something just immediately makes sense to you, or you have a really profound idea, that's the product of all the work that you've been putting in to perfect your craft, to get better at it, to learn to do something, whatever. Inspiration is good. To be inspired, to follow that just light bulb in your head, and when it does click, it can be good and it can result to good art. But to this inspiration can only it is also similar to motivation in a way. Motivation and inspiration will only take you so far, but discipline is what is able to create the pieces of art, the artworks that you love so much, the albums, the pictures, the poems, the books, the novels, the comics, the theater productions that you love so much. It takes discipline. Inspiration can give you an idea, but it takes discipline to act on it. And we as artists, we definitely need to know that just because we're experiencing like a writer's block or any other creative block does not mean that we're bad artists or that we're out of ideas. We're just growing, and that growth results in situations in which you might not be able to create as freely, or you might not be inspired, or you feel like you can't do anything because you're not inspired. But that's not the case. All of it is practice, all of it is discipline. And in addition to that, I feel that how me personally, feel it could apply to many people, but just to me personally, how to replenish creative energy can come in a multitude of ways. There's also another video that I'm going to link in the description on how you should spend your time outside of creating, because you're not going to be creating every single day. I'm not writing music every single day. I'm not producing every single day, every minute. It's not really possible for my schedule, but the time I take off from it is also very important as well. For example, I'll be working on a track or writing something and I just don't know, and I'll go outside, take a walk or a bike ride, or take a moment to just do some deep breathing exercises, and I'll come back to it and I'm like, oh, it all makes sense now. And I'm able to put two and two together and create connections that I did not know were there previously because I was kind of like stunning myself. And meditation is great. Prayer is a form of meditation that can help out with creative blocks. Just doing things for your leisure, not thinking about your art like too, critically, like, oh, it needs to be like this, it needs to be like this. And there's time for that, but it cannot be all the time because then it loses its luster, it loses its fun. You need to take breaks from your craft, either long or short ones. It really does depend. But the time away from creating needs to be used constructively so you have energy to replenish. You have energy that's replenished that you can put back into your art, because this energy does not just come from nowhere. It's a manifestation of how you treat yourself and what you're doing with your time that's going to reflect in your effort and in the content of what you create. I think that there are a lot of things that us as artists can fall victim to, whether it just be, disassociation through social media, being overindulgent in media and people, whether it be parties, whether it be lust, whether it be anything that aims to distract us and not serve us and take away our energy rather than give us more energy. Being around the wrong people will definitely do that to you. Being overindulgent will definitely do that to you. And I've personally experienced this, being around energy vampires, being overly indulgent in certain practices. It makes you not want to, the creative, someone strokes of genius or inspiration are few and far between, let alone being able to discipline yourself in the first place. Because if you're not disciplined in one area of life, you're not going to be disciplined in another area of life, and another, and another, and another, and it repeats. So the time you spend away from your craft is very important, whether in regards to getting inspiration, although that's not the end all be all. It's not the end all be all if you aren't inspired. It's more so a discipline thing. But even outside of your discipline, you need to be disciplined in the sense that you're taking care of yourself. To replenish that creative energy, you have to have a synchronization in all areas of your life somewhat. And there are small steps you can take to getting to that sort of clarity where you don't feel bad about yourself for not being inspired. You don't feel bad about yourself for hitting a writer's block or whatever. You're able to take time away and take care of yourself and understand that it's okay if you're not able to conceptualize something on the first try. It's trial and error. That's what we do as artists. Something that I've struggled with like basically my entire uh the entirety of like the last 5 years pursuing music. But I'm slowly, learning. I'm slowly um being able to have artistic humility and treat myself well and not beat myself up over the fact, oh, I can't get this drum break right. I can't get this loop right. I can't get this chord progression right. Or I can't find lyrics to this part, because there'll be demos I made like a year ago, 2 years ago, or like these weird rough drafts that I make in my DAW. And I'll come back to it years later and be like, oh, that's actually kind of cool. And I work on it and I make something even greater. So don't beat yourself up about it. Take care of yourself. Take care of your art. And have a good day. See ya.